Northern Illinois left for the Mountain West. Sacramento State jumped into the conference from the FCS level. Do you think Maddox is the best quarterback in this league?
I do see that first game at Pitt is tough. A first game being an ACC opponent is really tough, but I just don't know if I see them being Cincinnati. At Cincinnati is tough. That is.
Welcome to the Stat Boy Sports Podcast. I'm joined here, as I always am, by my boy Jarrett. Jarrett, this is part 2 of the G5 teams that we are covering for the college football playoff. Today we got the Pac-12, Conference USA, and the good old MAC. Of those 3 conferences, we have a lot of movement in the Pac-12. Of those 3 conferences, what are you most excited about this upcoming season with those?
You know, as someone that grew up watching the Pac-12, I think, of course, watching the Pac-12, see this new look. We're used to just seeing 2 teams the past couple of years with the Pac-12, so it'll be exciting to see a fully fitted Pac-12 again. So it'll be, interesting to see some of those teams. And I think maybe one of those teams will maybe slip into the college football playoff, hopefully. So, we'll just see how exciting and how competitive the conference is this year.
You bring up the Pac-12, and that's where we're going to get started. So with the Pac-12, obviously there's a lot of movement. It's essentially a brand new conference. After 2 seasons with Oregon State and Washington State, the Pac-12 added 8 teams: Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, San Diego State, and Utah State from the Mountain West. And they also added Texas State from the Sun Belt. Now, there's a lot of movement here. There's also 3 new coaches. Kirby Moore is at Washington State. Jim Mora is at Colorado State. And Jamarcus Shepard is at Oregon State. The favorites to win this conference: Boise State, San Diego State, Fresno State, Washington State, Utah State, and Texas State. Those are kind of the top 6 or so. Let's start right off the bat. Who do you think is going to win this conference? Do you think it's Boise State after all the success that they had in the Mountain West? Who's at the top of your list?
Well, I think definitely Boise State is at the top of my list here. That's a team that's been used to having a winning culture for the past, couple of decades. And we've been used to seeing Boise State make moves into big bowl games like the Fiesta Bowl in the past. We've seen them with great players, great quarterbacks, great running backs like Ashton Gent, who we just saw recently. So I definitely look to see that team making more success in this Pac-12 conference. Now, I won't be surprised if you see a team like Fresno State make an appearance, or even San Diego State make an appearance as being very competitive in that top field. I think Oregon State could be one of those teams that could possibly be messed around, since they have a returning quarterback after, a couple of years of not having, their quarterback play being all that consistent. It would be nice having a returning quarterback at their helm again. So I think the conference will just be overall really enjoyable, but I think right now my favorite is to have Boise State winning with a returning quarterback of Manson for sure.
I think Maddox is obviously the key here. Do you think Maddox is the best quarterback in this league? You mentioned the Oregon State guy. Do you think this is Maddox's player of the year to lose, essentially?
Yeah, definitely. I think, looking at Oregon State in the past, the offense has never been very consistent. Even at the quarterback helm, it's not very consistent quarterback play, but I think MACtion, basically it's his position to lose right now. He had a really good year last year, and I think this year is his opportunity to really have a sensational year, maybe get drafted, maybe in a late round in the NFL. But I think it's really just his position to lose. It's his job to basically lose this trophy. This is basically his year to win Player of the Year, in my opinion. So I definitely expect a big passing year for him this year.
The Boise State did lose wide receiver Caples. He exhausted his eligibility, went on to the NFL. I believe he went undrafted, but he's gone. I like your pick with Fresno State, though. I think they're kind of the sleeper to win this league. And the biggest reason why is their head coach. I think that their head coach, his name is Matt Entz. He was an FCS national champion at North Dakota State, and it's the second year now at Fresno State. They bring in a quarterback, Martin, from Maryland, and they lose a quarterback in Warner, who was a really good quarterback for them last year. But with the national championship experience that this coach has, I think their floor is 8-4. I think they have losses to maybe Washington State, Boise State at home, maybe San Diego State, and then they lose the USC the very first game of the year. But there's a lot of wins on this schedule, especially the fact that you get Boise State at home. I think their floor is 8-4, which would be third in the Pac-12 is what I project. But this is the team I think that could easily beat Boise State and win the Pac-12 in this new designed conference.
Yeah, definitely agree.
Are there any other sleepers in the Pac-12 that you see?
I think Oregon State's just going to be that really weird team, and I really want to do credit to the Oregon State quarterback Malik Murphy. That's the quarterback we're referring to. You know, he took his time at Duke and everything, and come back. I think that is going to be based on just how good Malik is. You know, he had shines of greatness at Duke, and I think he has opportunity to really shine maybe at this Oregon State offense. But I do think they can be one of those teams that maybe won't be a top 2 team, but they can be a team that just maybe ruins the team's chances to be the top team or maybe even be the best team in the conference for that year. So I definitely do look to see them be a Cinderella upsetter for the season for the teams. But yeah, that's probably going to be my one dark horse right there is that Oregon State team that hasn't had too much success in the past. I think this year might be the year they make a little bit of noise where we're kind of like, okay, they're trending upward a little bit. We might need to pay them a little more attention than we have in the past.
What about Texas State? I have them projected to go 6-6. I think they're going to be better than Oregon State. Do you think they can make any noise here?
Yeah, I think they have, again, another great quarterback. They have Brad Jackson over there. He's a great quarterback. I think he's going to be over there competing with Maddox Manson for that Player of the Year, opportunity. But they have a great offense over there. You know, they know for putting up points. Just look for their defense to get more consistent, tighten up. But I think Texas State can be another like Oregon State type team where I have Texas State finishing kind of 5th in the pack right now. I don't see them finishing too high, too low. I think they're kind of middle of the pack right now. But I do think the offense carries them a lot this season. For sure.
Yeah, I have them finishing 4th at 6-6. Like right now, I have Boise State winning the conference at 11-1, San Diego State at 9-3, Fresno State at 8-4, Texas State at 6-6, and Washington State at 6-6. Those I think are all the bowl teams in this conference. And then I have Oregon State at 4-8, and then Utah State and Colorado State at 2-10. Where do you disagree there? Where do you agree there?
I think I pretty much agree with that mostly. Other than just like Texas State's record being maybe a little different. I think they might have a little more of a negative season finishing 6th, but I think overall I pretty much agree with that for the most part. But yeah, I think we both agree with the same dark horse teams, with it being Fresno State and San Diego State being the teams that can compete with Boise State to knock it off that top point.
I think the thing that kind of disappoints me most with my own rankings is I really am a fan of Utah State's head coach Mendenhall. He turned around Virginia way back when. He kind of turned around New Mexico a couple years ago. But I just think this schedule for theirs is just brutal. I think the only wins that come out of this schedule are Idaho State and Colorado State. I think those are the only 2 wins. And then on the other side with Colorado State, I'm a real big fan of Mora, but I just don't think this schedule does it. I don't think they have enough firepower. I think they also go 2-10, like I said. And I think their only wins come at FCS Southern Utah. And actually, as I'm looking at this more, they might go 1-11 the more I keep looking at this. This is going to be a rough first year at Colorado State.
And, growing pains happen. We've seen past Colorado State teams that haven't been too bad. We remember that Colorado State team that was talking all the trash to Deion Sanders' team with Colorado, and they got into that beef, and it seems like they haven't really trended upwards since that moment. So hopefully that team can rebound because, losing that game to Colorado State, I think, really affected the overall ability to pick up recruits because they kind of killed some of their swag, if I'm being honest.
I will also say one of the key departures for Colorado State, Rocky Beers did go over to Oklahoma, so that's a big loss in the name category. So
top 5 name of all time. Respect to the Rockies.
Anything else with the Pac-12 before we move on to Conference USA?
No, just looking excited to the Pac-12 conference. Looking forward to those Saturday games. So good to see the Pac-12 back in full form again. Hopefully we can get 2 more teams in there to make it a full team, full conference again. But, yeah, excited to see them going again.
Yeah, I'm just happy we have more than 2 teams.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Conference USA. Conference USA has 1 new hire in Casey Woods of Missouri State, and they lost Louisiana Tech, who went to the Sun Belt. UTEP also left for the Mountain West. And so now there are 10 total teams in this conference. The favorites to win this are Western Kentucky, Liberty, Kennesaw State, Jacksonville State, Delaware, and FIU. Now, New Mexico has had some success in this conference. Delaware was the new kid on the block along with Missouri State last year. What do you make of this conference overall? Liberty's kind of ran things. Western Kentucky's always consistently had a good offense. What do you make of this conference overall, and who do you think actually wins it?
I think this conference is actually really fun. I think there's a lot of exciting teams in here. I think J-State's a lot of fun. I think, Liberty's a really exciting team to watch. They also have really fun quarterbacks to watch play. And then Western Kentucky is just a really high-powered offensive team every year. It's going to be a really fun conference to see a lot of, good offensive football being played. Of course, I think my favorite of the conference right now is Western Kentucky. I think in the past couple of years, Western Kentucky has really shown how good they can be. I really would like to see Liberty get back into full form again after the Caden Slater years that they had previously. They were, putting up 12-win seasons. I would love to see them get back to that form again. Western Kentucky right now is definitely my favorite right now for this conference. But I do think the one sleeper that could definitely surprise everyone this year, and I wouldn't be surprised if they won the conference, is J-State. I could definitely see them being that one dark horse that could possibly pull off a win. Just like a Fresno State, where they have a pretty solid all-around team, they could definitely make that stride to be able to jump to that next level and get out of that mid-season form and get to that full season form maybe into late December. And maybe we can see them make a roll to a really nice bowl game.
Yeah, Jacksonville State is interesting to me. I project them at 8-4, fourth in the conference, but I could definitely see the schedule jumping to 10-2, just kind of like that. Their schedule, even in the non-conference, they play at North Dakota State, which I do think they lose, but I think they can win that game at the same time. They have Eastern Kentucky, which will be a win, FCS school. Then they play at Ohio, which I do think is a loss, but again, definitely could be a win. And then when they get into conference play, Kennesaw State, I think, is the only team I actually think Kennesaw State will win this conference. I think that's the only conference game, and because it's on the road, that I truly chalk up for a loss. The rest of these games, their away games are at Western Kentucky, at Delaware, and at New Mexico State outside of Kennesaw State. I think Jacksonville State can overcome these road games and win this conference outright. I mean, it's not that difficult, but the only problem is playing at Kennesaw State. Can you get over that hump? Because I think Kennesaw State is going to be that good in this conference. I project Kennesaw State at 10-2, with losses coming to Tennessee in the third game of the year, and second loss coming at Western Kentucky the last game of the year, because that game is on the road. But I think they beat Jacksonville State, and the biggest reason why is they bring in quarterback Ricky Collins from Syracuse, former four-star guy, and their head coach Jerry Mack entering the second season. I mean, he went 8-4. I think this team is really good, but it's also Conference USA where anything could happen. So outside of Jacksonville State, what else do you see in terms of a dark horse?
Well, outside of Jack State, I really do like the idea of seeing, I don't just like because of their name, but, you got to love the Blue Hens, You got to respect the Blue Hens. You never know what's going to happen with, Delaware. Being the new kid on the block, like I mentioned, they can always make some noise immediately, especially with past success with their team. This isn't exactly a bad team that is coming into the conference. Now, I do want to say J-State did go 9-5 last year, and it is funny that you say Kennesaw State's the favorite for you because Kennesaw State's the team that beat them in the championship game last year. But I do think Delaware is that one team that could definitely make some, slide notes. I happen to finish in fourth in the conference right now, right behind J-State. I just think they have a great quarterback play, and I think overall they're going to be, again, another great offensive team to watch. So I do think they'll be one of those teams that's going to kind of be, kind of tricky. You just don't know. I don't think they're going to win the conference, but don't be surprised if they finish second or third in that conference, weirdly enough.
Yeah, Nick Minicucci, baby. One of the better names. Nick Minicucci, baby.
Got great names in this conference, don't you?
Great names. I mean, he led an offense last year that averaged nearly 33 points per game. I mean, it's hard to lose games when we're scoring 33 points per game. But the defense was really bad last year is the only thing. But I do contribute a lot of that as they like to play fast. So they're going to score a lot of points, but they also are going to give up a lot of points, and their goal is just to basically outscore you. I could definitely see Delaware doing something. I project them at 6-6. I think one of the biggest reasons they play at Vanderbilt, they play Coastal Carolina, which I actually think they can win that game, but still kind of iffy, and then at Virginia. So you got a tough non-conference, and then I think their losses in conference come to Kennesaw State, Western Kentucky, and Liberty, kind of the three powerhouses. In terms of the standings, like I said, I have Kennesaw State winning the conference. I think they go 10-2. Liberty also at 10-2, followed by Western Kentucky at 9-3, Jacksonville State at 8-4, and Delaware at 6-6. I think those are the conference. Those are the teams in the conference that will make a bowl game. And after that, I got FIU at 5-7, Missouri State at 3-9, New Mexico State at 3-9, Sam Houston State at 3-9, and then good old Middle Tennessee going 1-11. Do you agree there? Disagree there? What do you see there?
Well, I mean, before, I mentioned West Kentucky. I have them as my favorites. I do think the Kennesaw State team is a very talented team, but I just think that Western Kentucky team is I think they're set to win this conference. I think it's between them, in my opinion. I think it's between them and Liberty to lose this year. But again, the two teams that are right behind them are definitely J-State and Kennesaw State, in my opinion. I have them both finishing right behind one another. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Kennesaw State does win, but again, I also wouldn't be surprised if I see J-State winning. But for right now, I'm pretty confident in either West Kentucky or Liberty winning this conference.
That's fair. I also think Western Kentucky does have a coaching advantage over Kennesaw State. Tyson Helton constantly is on those short lists every offseason to be either an offensive coordinator somewhere or a head coach. I'm kind of surprised he hasn't been picked up by anyone. And Jamie Chadwell too. Like, it's kind of weird how this conference has two really good coaches in Helton and Chadwell who just haven't been picked up. One interesting thing that I like to hear your opinion on with Western Kentucky, there are 64 total new players on the Western Kentucky roster. What do you think about that?
I think it depends. You definitely wonder how spring ball goes. You wonder how, offseason goes with that, guys messing with each other. But, at the end of the day, that is a whole new team. No matter how good of a coach you are, you're still implementing a whole new team. And this is a team that was 9-4 just last year. So you're going from a team that was almost a 10-win team to basically a whole new roster. You expect them to bring in talent that's just as good, and you hope they bring in talent just as good, and you look forward to seeing the offense not lose any, have any hiccups. But there's going to be hiccups to start the season.
Right.
But they have a pretty easy non-conference schedule. I mean, North Alabama, Toledo, Nevada, walking into those games, those are all very 3-0 confidence-building games where you can really get your wheels going, especially playing North Alabama. I think that game's going to be really important for them. Or, excuse me, that was last year.
I was going to say they play Georgia and Indiana here in the non-conference.
Yeah, they play Georgia and Indiana, but their first game, Nevada, will be very But after that, it's going to be pretty ugly for them. But Maryhurst, I think, again, they still get their footing in a couple games in conference where they play Mercyhurst and they play New Mexico State. Those are two games that I think are very winnable to get them in the conference play where they can, get their footing to at least hopefully win out. They could only lose for the season, in my opinion, Georgia and Indiana. And then after that, they really could go undefeated for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Which is very doable for them.
I don't disagree.
Because the schedule isn't too crazy. They have some tough games, obviously finishing the year with Kennesaw State, Liberty, and J-State. That's going to be a gauntlet for sure. But I do think they're very set to finish the year probably one of the best years they've had in a while. So
the one nice thing, too, is they get Kennesaw State at home. I think they lose the Liberty because it's a away game, the second to last game of the year. But then I think they get Kennesaw State at the end of the year. So it's set up.
How do you feel about the J-State game?
I have Western Kentucky winning. Again, I'm a big home victory person. I think but that's the beauty about this conference we were talking about before we started recording. Like, there's going to be some ugly Wednesday games that we're just going to be watching, and you're going to see you might see Middle Tennessee somehow win 4 or 5 games, even though this roster is terrible. Like, that's the beauty of these lower conferences.
And honestly, you never know with some of these non-conference games. You never know. these games are weird, and we don't know anything about any of these teams sometimes, and new conferences, new faces, new places. NIL is just wild. You just don't know. You could end up seeing some stud quarterback that's from the middle of nowhere come out there
Hmm.
after redshirting for 2 years and ball out. You just don't know. So
Hmm.
it's going to be interesting to see how these teams play this year, especially in this conference that is so offensive heavy. So it'll be really fun.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is Western Kentucky has a transfer from Florida State, Brock Glenn. I mean, he was at Florida State, so who knows?
Yeah. I feel like Brock Glenn's been playing for a little while. What year is he? He a senior?
He's got to be a senior. I don't have it. I don't
Yeah,
have
he
that in
has to be
front of me,
senior
but
because
he's
I think he
been
was there. He was there when DJ Ugalele was there.
yeah
Um,
he's been there for a minute.
yeah, yeah,
So some of these guys just spend way too much time in college.
yeah. I mean, like, don't you, don't you get tired doing homework?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. No.
But
Let's
if they're
move
doing
on.
it,
Let's move on to the MAC. Now, the MAC is probably the most interesting league because MACtion is the most interesting thing in college football. Northern Illinois left for the Mountain West. Sacramento State jumped into the conference from the FCS level. It's really weird having Sacramento State in the MAC, but hey, we're here. A couple of new coaching changes include Mike Jacobs going to Toledo, came over from Mercer. John Hauser is now at Ohio. And Alonzo Carter is at Sacramento State. Kent State also made a change with Mark Carney now as their permanent after the interim tag last year. The favorites are Miami, Ohio, Western Michigan, Central Michigan, Toledo, Ohio, and then Buffalo. This is always the hardest conference to kind of preview because there's just so much chaos. Miami, Ohio is going to be this slow defensive team. Toledo, for the most part, is going to be a fast running team. What do you make of the MAC, Jarrett?
I think it's the greatest show on Tuesday evenings. I think you can't get wrong with the MAC. You're going to enjoy some great football. I think my favorite, of course, is going to be Western Michigan coming off a 10-4 season. I think they were, have really had a great year last year. They were competitive in pretty much almost all the games they played. They had tough games to start last year. They played North Texas, but they played North Texas competitive to a 33-30 loss. They played Michigan State pretty competitively. It sounds not competitive, 23-6, but it's a defensive heavy game, and I can respect that for a team that's not in the conference as big as the Big Ten. But after that, they were just dominating teams to the point where, they look like they don't even belong in the conference. Only team that competed with them, Miami, Ohio, which I think is, of course, my second place runner up right there. I think Miami, Ohio is a very consistent team. And like you said, they kind of switch up the way Western Michigan plays, which is kind of more of a fast-paced offense. Miami plays very slow, likes to, take care of the ball, hit you in the face a couple times, and keep hitting your face over a couple times. It'll be exciting to see how these teams play and how they manage out. It is basically on whose scheme is better for that year. So I'm looking forward to see whose scheme is going to win this conference this year.
I have Miami, Ohio winning the conference. I think they go 11-1, honestly. I see what you see in Western Michigan. Western Michigan is more of my sleeper, you could call it. I know what they did last year. I think the roster turnover is a little bit of a concern for me. But the biggest reason why I like Miami, Ohio is the coach. He's been there for 13 years now, I believe. I mean, when you know the conference on in and out like that, that's why they're my choice to win. The one interesting thing about Miami, Ohio is remember last year they had DeQuan Finn, who was one of the better conference players a couple years before that with Toledo. He left just mid-year for some reason to prepare for the draft, even though he wasn't projected to go super high. It was really a weird situation, and they were still able to overcome that. And I think that's just a testament to this coach. He's there, like I said, there for 13 years now. I think that they go 11-1. I think their only loss is to Pittsburgh. This is a bold projection because it is the MAC, but I think this team can go undefeated in conference play. And the biggest reason why is they avoid Toledo, and Western Michigan is their last game of the year. And when you kind of do that, I think you have a chance. I think it's going to come down to that last game between Western Michigan and Miami, Ohio. But other than that, you get a lot of these bottom teams like Central Michigan, Akron, and UMass right there in the middle of the conference. Now, let's talk about UMass for a second, because they were arguably the worst team in college football history last year. Did not win a game. I have them projected to win 2 games this year. Wouldn't be surprised if it's 0 again. You feel bad for the Minutemen. Do you think they can get to 4 wins? What do you make of the worst team from last year?
I don't think they last a minute. Let's just leave it at that. I think UMass can probably be one of those teams that pulls out a win, but I don't see them winning 2 games.
The only reason why I got them at 2 is because they play 2 FCS opponents. It's Sacred Heart and Stonehill. That's the only reason I got them at 2.
That don't mean anything.
I would think they get a single FBS win.
Yeah. Okay. Fair. Okay. I'll take that.
Yeah.
I think the FCS conference is coming along, though. I think there's some really tough teams in the FCS, and you just never know at this point in time. Unfortunately, I just think even if teams that are looking to get an easy FCS win nowadays, it's tricky to really gauge that because come from a guy that came from an FCS school, Austin Peay. I would take Austin Peay over some of these FBS schools because Austin Peay has some really talented players. Just looking at other schools like Weber State, Montana State, those schools are talented. Really talented, and they can go and do some damage in FBS. Not crazy damage, but they can go and beat a team like a UMass. But when it comes to Miami, Ohio, I do have to disagree with you on this hand. Okay. I think that their schedule is very favorable for them to win a lot of games, but I think they run into roadblocks with Cincinnati. I think they run into roadblocks at Central Michigan because I think that game is just tough in general playing at the Chippewas. But I also think there are other losses with Western Michigan, so I do see them losing 3 games this year. But I also do see them, being a favorite to win the conference this year, finishing second as well. I do see them. That first game at Pitt is tough. A first game being an ACC opponent is really tough, but I just don't know if I see them being Cincinnati. At Cincinnati is tough. That's a tough one.
I think the biggest reason why is I don't think Cincinnati is going to be – I think Cincinnati is going to be terrible this year. I think that's the biggest thing. And I think Miami, Ohio, and other teams for that matter, when you play really slow like this, I think that's the only chance these lower-end schools have a chance to beat a bigger times Power 5 school in Cincinnati. I think they have the play style to win the game. That's why I project them to go 11-1. But playing Pittsburgh and then playing Cincinnati, dropping both of those is obviously expected.
Yeah. But
so right now with my projections, I have Miami, Ohio winning the whole thing at 11-1, going undefeated in the MAC. Then I have Toledo at 10-2, Central Michigan at 9-3, Western Michigan at 8-4, the University of Ohio at 8-4, Buffalo and Eastern Michigan both at 7-5. Bowling Green, who the head coach there is Eddie George, going 6-6, and then Sacramento State at 4-8, Kent State at 3-9, and then Akron, Ball State, and UMass all going 2-10. I know you disagree with Western Michigan. You think they should be higher. What else do you disagree with / agree with?
Well, for the most part, I actually agree with the rankings. I actually do agree with them. Other than, you're favorable to UMass because you got the FCS wins, so whatever. But
let's go Minutemen, baby.
I'm just saying, you love the Minutemen. I love it. But, I think overall, Buffalo's another team that's going to be fairly interesting. I definitely want to check out that Buffalo team. I think they're going to be one of those weird, maybe 8-4, 7-5 teams that were kind of just like, are you going to make a move to try to make a bowl appearance, and then it's going to be like a decision on the last minute game? But I do think it's going to be between Western Michigan and Miami, Ohio. But I do understand the turnover with Western Michigan than they had, making it tough to be able to make a repeat of last season, especially with just the impact of losing some of the star players with NIL, graduation, transfers, etc. It's tough. So I definitely see where you're coming from.
What do you make of Sacramento State? Obviously, FCS jump, FBS jump from the FCS level. Going to have a lot of weird travel, just going back and forth between Ohio and California.
Got a lot of money to blow, clearly.
Yeah, exactly.
Money they spent last year.
Exactly. I mean, so they have Carson Coughlin as a quarterback who was there at Sacramento State, then left for Fresno State, and then now he's back. Think they have any kind of chance to make a bowl at 6-6, even though I don't think they're eligible for it because it's their first year. But do you think they can get to 6-6? I'm looking at this schedule. They start off with a conference game right away against Eastern Michigan, which I do think they lose. They get Mississippi Valley and then Fresno State and North Dakota State. They do get UMass, though. They do get UMass after that. That's a win. That is a win.
That's a gimme.
That's a gimme. That's a bye week. That's an extra bye week.
I think with how Sac State was last year, and I'm being totally honest with how everything kind of transpired with, getting a 5-star quarterback and et cetera, and how it just like kind of trampled down. It is so hard to put belief in Sacramento State right now because I did have high expectations for them last year. Now their schedule makes it look like they're not too bad. Like
like you kind of see something, right? You kind of see something.
You threw on Eastern Michigan, and then you said, "Oh, oops, I threw on Mississippi Valley State." Come on. Yeah, then you got Fresno State. They're going to lose that. I don't see them being North Dakota State. They will beat UMass. They're not going to beat Bowling Green. I don't know if they win the homecoming game, but sometimes teams come out different on homecoming. So I do think they maybe get Ohio for homecoming. I do think they beat Ball State. I think they lose to Kent State, even though that's at home. But man, after that, I don't see them winning a game again.
I think when you look at this roster, the weirdest thing to me is you play a conference game in game 1 against Eastern Michigan, and then you go on the road in the last game of the season to play at Hawaii. What are we doing? Like, what is this schedule? Yeah, like I had to look at it 3 different times.
Wait.
I was like,
we're tired of flying to Ohio. We're gonna fly to Hawaii instead. Then we're gonna. I don't even know where the MAC championship in Detroit. So
yeah,
they just know.
So not only that, like I know they get a bye week in between. So on November 11th, you play Central Michigan at Central Michigan. Then you get a bye week, but then you got to go all the way to Hawaii. Like this is one of the weirdest like scheduling spots I think I've ever seen in my entire life.
The boosters wanted a vacation. That break in between is them on the beach.
Yeah. Might as well spend 2 weeks in Hawaii. I mean, damn.
Yeah, enjoy it. I mean, if our season's going well, we're celebrating. If it's not going well, we're celebrating. We had a season.
Exactly. Anything else about the MAC?
Yeah, I think the MAC's gonna be interesting. Like I said, the best show on TV on Tuesdays when it comes to November, December time. So definitely, if you have free time, watch MAC football. It's always a treat. I promise you, it's always a treat watching these guys play. They play hard. It's fun offense. Sometimes it's monotonous, slow, but I promise the last 5 minutes of those games are unreal. So definitely check out MAC football this year.
And all the games are outside. You never see that in football anymore.
No,
every single game is outside. Yeah.
They're like mailmen through rain and snow. They're out there.
Exactly. Anything else about the Pac-12, Conference USA, the MAC, anything else to draw everything to a conclusion?
No, I just think that these are going to be 3 conferences where hopefully we see one of these teams end up in the college football playoff. It's more likely going to be a team from the Pac-12, but it'll be cool to see maybe one of these small teams eventually one day get into the playoff and maybe make some noise. But for right now, I think this conference and all the 3 conferences are going in the right direction. I'm really excited to see how impactful all 3 conferences are this year.
I don't think a team from the G5 team can be from the Conference USA or the MAC, but do you think a team for the college football playoff out of the G5 can come from the Pac-12?
Good. But I don't know.
Fair enough.
This is why I'm not on the committee, but I don't know.
Fair enough.
I would like to see a more diverse college football playoff. Just like college basketball is so diverse and it's so exciting. You just never know what's going to happen. You see a 16 seed going against a 1 seed and you're just like, oh yeah, guarantee the 1 seed's going to win. Yeah. And you see the 16 seed make it all the way to the Sweet 16 and you're like, wow, who would have thunk that this team had 3 guys that were just from the middle of nowhere that happened to be so talented, they're better than high major D1 players. So I think there's a lot of guys, and NIL is making it like that, where it's making it so diverse in football where everyone has some type of talent somewhere. it's going to make it really hard to start denying teams from blending them in the playoff at some point.
Yeah,
So I'm
I
hoping
agree.
that at some point it gets really open for more teams. Not many more teams in, but just allowing more diverse teams in, if that makes sense.
I like that. I like that. Well, if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Listening on a podcast platform, give us 5 stars, all that jazz. Until next time, until next week. Thanks for being here, Jay.